Magandang araw sa inyong lahat. Espesyal para sa akin ang araw na ito. Pinagpipitagan ng ating makakasama dito sa ating studio para sa talakayang Development Dialogues na bahagi ng malawakang usapan natin para sa AMBAG Network. AMBAG is a Filipino word that means contribution, support, share, or donation. It refers to something given or offered to help achieve a goal or a part brought into a whole. Sa mahigit 2 dekada ko sa development work, nais ko ring magbahagi ng aking ambag sa paraang alam kong bihasa akong gawin. Ang pagkukwento at pakikipagtalastasan sa mga individual o grupong nangunguna sa pagtulong sa ating bansa, lalo na sa mga malalayong komunidad para maghandog ng tulong pinansyal, bagong kaalaman, mga teknolohiyang angkop sa pangangailangan, mga aklat at kahit mga gamot at maging mga eksperto sa siyensya at pagkakawanggawa. It is my honor to introduce to you our special guest for the day, who is celebrating his first 100 days in the Philippines this week as the United Nations Development Program's resident representative, Mr. Christophe Bahuet. He is leading UNDP's work here to support human development in the Philippines with a focus on climate action, governance, peace building, and economic transformation through innovation, digitalization, and the use of artificial intelligence or AI for all. Mabuhay! At welcome sa Pilipinas, Mr. Christophe.
Maraming salamat po. Magandang hapon po sa atin lahat.
Nais namin kayong higit na makilala, hindi lang bilang diplomat, kundi bilang Sir Christophe. Are you ready, sir?
Let's go. It's a nice way to celebrate 100 days.
Wow! Thank you very much for gracing our episode. If I ask you, which one will you prefer? Kapeng barako o French press?
Oh, wala sa dalawa. Ang paboritong kong inumin talaga ay tsa, na lalo berteng tsa. Ngayon gusto kong tikman na tsang na tumutubo na Filipinas. Mayroon isang lugar sa Miss Oriental kung saan nagsisimula ang tanim, ang tsa, ulong tsa, ang magsasaka. Kaya gusto kong puntuhan noon ng tikman. Hindi pa natikman, isang espesyal.
I'm sure, sir, special yan. At alam ko po makakarating kayo riyan kasi nag-uumpisa pa lang ang inyong pagpunta dito sa mga lugar sa Pilipinas. Thank you for that answer. Dagat o bundok sa Pilipinas? Alin yung una mong pupuntahan?
Dagat o bundok? Maakit-akit ang dagat at bundok. Ipinagdiriwang sa pambansang awit ng Pilipinas. Sa dagat at bundok. Pero piliin ako ng palayan, lalo na Luzon. Gusto ko ang palayan.
Right.
Dahil bahagi ito magandang natural na tanawin, pero iniklam nga tao. Labo ko dito gusto kong ang kamahitikan, ang kapayapaan ng palayan.
Matahimik sa mga lugar na patag.
Yeah.
Pagkain, sir? Adobo ka or sinigang?
Sinigang.
Very good!
Sinigang.
Everybody's favorite.
Dahil gusto kong ang maasim na lasa ng sampalos. Sinigang.
Wow! At Tagalog lahat ng sagot mo, sir, doon. Natutuwa ako.
Hindi.
Diba? Ang husay. Kung mag-speech ka, anong gusto mo? Yung nakasanayan mong UN speech bilang diplomat o yung mga usapang pangtalakayan sa komunidad?
Usapan sa komunidad. Wala pag-aalilangan. Mahalaga ang UN speech dahil ito ako ang tinig sa United Nations Development Program. Nababahagi ako ang mamasahe sa aming mga katuan. Pero mas gusto ako ang pausapan sa komunidad. Dahil ako akan naintindihan tungkol ang buhay ng mga tao. Nakaupo, kikinig ako, naintindihan ako ang mahamon, kanilang makahirap, ang mapag-asa. Bawat bansang isang pinagtrabahuhan, sandali iyon sa mga komunidad, sa mga lungsod, pati pa rin sa maliit na nayon, pinag-usap sa komunidad. Emosyonal. Ini connection sa mga tao.
Yes. At lalo kang matututo ng Tagalog.
Yeah, matututo ng Tagalog.
Makaka-practice ng Filipino.
Layunin ang UNDP ay mapabuti ang buhay.
Maraming salamat po. Ano yung unang salitang Filipino natutunan mo? Kasi nakaka-4 na tanong na ako. Puro Tagalog yung sagot mo, sir. Ano yung unang salita na una mong natutunan?
Unang salita, salamat dahil sa iba wika tulad na Arabic o bahasa Indonesia, salamat ay pagbati. Pero sa Tagalog is thank you.
Thank you.
Ang pagalawang salita ay po. Salamat po.
Dagdagan natin ng
Ganon
marami.
nagsisimula ko nag-aaral.
Marami means many.
Maraming salamat.
Maraming salamat po.
Pero unang salita ay salamat.
Plus mabuhay.
Mabuhay
Welcome.
rin.
Welcome. Kung meron namang isang Filipino skill, yung parang kilalang pang Pilipino, tatak Pilipino, ano yung gusto mong matutunan? Mga ginagawa namin na parang kayang-kaya ng mga Pilipino na gusto mo rin gawin.
Gusto kong matutunan karaoke.
Wow.
Lalo na nga Tagalog na kakanta, kinakanta.
Very good.
Pero sintunado ako.
Hindi.
ako binayaan magandang boses.
Practice.
Pangarap lang.
Practice.
Kailangan practice. Maraming practice.
Wow, salute! Top 5 questions and all in Filipino. Kaya nang kumanta ng Tagalog sa susunod. We try this round, another round. But this time, it's about you being a diplomat. But sa kabila nung titulo mo na yon, gusto ka pa rin naming makilala, Sir Christophe. Halimbawa, ano ba yung skill na natutunan mo along the way sa iyong career na feeling mo naman, hindi naman siya tinuro sa university or natutunan mo sa mga colleagues mo. Parang kakaibang skill pero nakatulong sa karera mo.
Pero
hindi sa paaralan.
Hindi sa paaralan. Magandang tanong ito. Sa tingin ko, emotional intelligence.
Wow.
Ito ang bagay na hindi itinuturo tulad asignatura sa paaralan pero napakahalaga.
EQ.
Intelligence, emotional intelligence.
Yeah.
Umuyogin ang pinag-ugniyang sa iba.
Sa kapwa.
Yan.
Yes,
Ini matututon sa karanasan na buhay.
Yeah.
Ipag-usapan sa mga tao.
Along the way and through the years, nakukuha at napapalakas ang emotional intelligence. Pinagsamang dalawa.
Pero napakahalaga.
Napakahalaga.
Hindi sa paaralan.
Nung bata ka ba, gusto mo nang maging diplomat o iba yung pangarap mo?
Hindi. May magandang plano ako. Noong 5 o 6 na akong gulang pa lang nakatira sa France. Plano ay nanihira sa ibang planeta, lalo na sa Jupiter. Pero pagkatapos nagpatanto ako, hindi hubra plano iyong. Binago ako ang plan.
Ngayon ay gusto mo?
Ngayon lalakay sa planetang dining lang sa UNDP hanggang sa Pilipinas.
Okay. Napunta ka sa planet Earth at sa planet UNDP kasi yung pagiging diplomat mo ay mas kinakailangan. You have a purpose to be one of those diplomats and one of the top persons under the UNDP program. Thank you very much. So kung ilalagay natin siya sa personal, sa mga gawain mo na magsasabi na ito na si Sir Christophe, ito yung personality niya ngayon na hindi naman alam ng mga kasama mo or kung alam man nila dahil na-oobserbahan ka nila. Halimbawa, mahilig ka bang magdala ng aklat o mag-podcast or may iba ka pa bang kinakahiligan?
Aklat. Sa Maliba, podcast. Ito ngayon.
First time!
Pero mas gusto ako aklat.
Aklat. So, mahilig kang magbasa.
Aklat.
Kung may mga ginagawa ka, mahilig ka bang magsulat sa papel o digital ka na?
Digital talaga. Hindi gumagamit ako ang papel na hindi nagpiprint kahit na opisina. Napakalingdas ang mapuno.
Paperless.
Digital. Paperless.
So, kahit meron ka mga aralin, you use your mobile phone.
And computer.
iPad. Yeah. Yes. May natutunan tayo doon. Paperless to save trees. According to Sir Christophe, the same old mantra we should also tell our children and our youth now. Sa personal mo pa, mahilig ka ba sa musika? Anong tugtugin ang madalas mong pakinggan, lalo na kung medyo stress sa work?
Meditation music?
So, ayaw mo nung rock. Meditation music, pangtanggal ng stress. Yung hobby. Parang something na you want to do as a hobby, but actually not so much that you're into it. Sports or...
Hobby kong ay mag-aral ang mga wika.
Wow.
Hindi hobby.
Really?
Sa tingin ko ito hobby.
Yeah. So nag-aral ka ng Tagalog dahil nasa Pilipinas ka. Nung nasa
Ngayon,
ibang bansa...
mahilig ako mag-aral Tagalog. Dahil sa karanasan mo, mag-aral ang wika, nagbubukas maraming pinto. Ititinda panggalan at interes. Pang naintindihan ang lipunan.
Mas naintindihan.
Nasipuhan, kasaysayan. Hindi para sa linguistika, pero sa communication sa mga tao.
Pag bumababa ka sa komunidad, may konti ka nang alam na Tagalog, mahahasa pa siya.
Gusto kong mag-aral ang wika.
Salud! Sa dami-dami ng pinuntahan mo, so marami ka ng wikang alam. At may ibang kwentuhan tayo tungkol sa proseso niya, kung paano niya natututunan talaga. Dahil ang husay, di ba? Ang husay.
Pero medyo mahirap ang Tagalog. Sinusubukan.
9/10 already.
Hindi.
Sa mga napuntahan mo, sir, bukod dun sa naaral mo yung wika, inaaral mo yung mga tao, anong bansa naman yung parang nagbago yung pananaw mo?
Siguro Vietnam, kung saan nagtrabaho ako na 4 na taon. Dahil Vietnam isang bansa na dumadasa sa kolonyalismo. Pagkatapos ng hirap sa France, pagkatapos sa Amerika. Malaking bahagi populasyon noon mahirap. Kaso isang bansa yung hinaharap sa reforma, malawakang reforma, tatagumpay mabawasan kahirapan. Karanasan ito nagbago pananaw ko sa pag-unlad at kasaysayan.
Ng Vietnam. Ako rin, sir. Favorite ko rin yung Vietnam. In fact, they're very developed now. And I really like Vietnam also and its people. How about yung mga lugar na hindi mo naman inisip na magugustuhan mo? Pero later, you realize, I like that country, I like that place.
Siguro, Uzbekistan, ipanadala ko sa Uzbekistan na nung liblib na lugar. Pero naging interesante ang karanasan. Masayam ng kasaysayan, punan, napakabait na matanggap ang tao. Magandang ng karanasan.
So good memory. You didn't expect, but good memories. Among all those na pinuntahan mo, so we call all that journey, meron ka bang pinapaka-excited pa na sa Pilipinas mo mahahanap?
Sa Pilipinas, no, siguro na makatuklas ang isang bansa kakauti pa lang ang alam ko. Kilala ko ang Timog Silangan Asya pero hindi masyado ang Pilipinas. Kaya nakaka-excite pupunta sa Pilipinas. Bukod dito, layunin UNDP adala suportahan ang pag-ungklat, pambansang pag-ungklat. Nakaka-excite ako ini. Masaya ako sa Pilipinas.
Thank you, sir. That was just January, February, March, April.
3 buwan.
More to go. More to go. How about sa pag-aaral mo ng Tagalog, salita namin, mga tao na meet mo, meron ka na bang Filipino value na nakita na parang inisip mo na maaring tularan ito ng buong mundo? Pag may nagtanong sa'yo, it's a Filipino value that the world should, emulate.
Mayroong isang katanggihan na pinag-aaralan ko ngayon, bayanihan. Gusto ko ito, bayanihan, dahil sa pagkakaunawa ko, nagpapahayag ito ng pakikiisa, pagtutulungan sa pagitan ng tao sa komunidad. So, ngunit nanawala ito sa pagitan bansa.
Sa ibang bansa.
Sa ibang bansa. Na kailangan natin mas bayanihan.
Bayanihan, maraming mga Pilipino, automatic yan, sir. Tulong-tulong, sama-sama, pakikiisa sa panahon na naghihirap, maski sa panahon na masaya, we call it bayanihan.
Oo, bayanihan, kailangan natin mas bayanihan.
Mas maraming bayanihan ngayon kasi ang daming problema. Sa buong mundo.
International sa ibang mundo.
Thank you very much, sir. That was like a good set of questions and very interesting answers spoken in our own language. We are humbled.
I hope you understood me.
Yes, we did.
Good.
We are very happy and we are also humbled that you've learned it in just a few months.
I'm learning it. Far from being what but keep trying.
I'll try more. I'll try more. So this next set of questions is more on your development work. This is very close to my heart, having had work in development work for more than 2 decades. So let's see and hear from Sir Christophe his early reflections on development, like in your first few months here in our country. What has stood out to you as, wow, what a beautiful landscape?
So now, talking about work, so we shift to English. Well, beautiful landscape in the Philippines itself. It's a beautiful country. Love Philippines. But it's quite an interesting landscape from a development point of view. And I think in 2 respects. First is the number of development issues that United Nations, UNDP, and other partners can work on. So from climate to economic transformation, social cohesion. So it is a very diverse but very interesting, motivating landscape. Because you're building, you have a basis. You have already, a trajectory. Philippines is going to be soon an upper middle income country. So that landscape is a combination of various issues with a strong basis. And the second thing that is very interesting when you come to the Philippines as an international is important that the Philippines attached to multilateral cooperation and to the United Nations.
Yes, sir.
And at a time where multilateralism and the United Nations are very often attacked, the importance of it is denied, the value are not respected. It's very important to have a country like the Philippines in ASEAN or in the world that actually voices strong support for the United Nations and is very keen on international cooperation. And that makes, my job and the job of UNDP and the United Nations system here in the Philippines a very rewarding one, because we are welcome and we are working with partners who recognize our importance and actually welcoming us.
Yes.
And that's, make it a very, very...
from the national
condition.
government agencies to our local government units,
Absolutely.
to the civil society,
And to the
also
people. And the people.
private
Yes.
sector, and even the communities.
Yeah.
And also, if I may share, sir, even the Filipino youth, they're very active on UN SDGs. And I've met several who are organized groups and even not yet so organized, but they're working with projects under the UNDP or other subsectors of UN. So I think it's really a beautiful landscape for your journey in the Philippines.
But I'm very happy you're mentioning the youth. In a country
Yes.
like the Philippines with a democracy, you have a very, active role of the youth. And for us, they are, a key partner. We don't work for the youth. We just don't, support the youth. We're working with the youth. We are involving them in many things, climate action,
Yes.
young entrepreneurship. And that's, a very dynamic group of young people you have in the Philippines.
Yes.
It stands out in the region as well. I saw in ASEAN region, the young people of the Philippines being very vocal, very active, and that's very much, something that we support and
Under
appreciate.
the EU UNDP partnership for circular economy, while the partners are the LGUs and the private sector, they top the Filipino youth to lead not only in the community work but also in communication. They use their digital media connection to also promote activities not only of the government but
Absolutely.
the youth groups.
Absolutely, yes.
So thank you also for...
I'm happy you mentioned this very great program that we have with the European Union on green economy partnership.
Yes.
And indeed, the young people are a very important part of it. And we work with the youth in all parts of the country, from north to south.
Yes, sir. How about, sir, if there are activities or organizations that you feel like, wow, I'm surprised that in terms of the country's opportunities for development, it's happening in the Philippines. It's like something that surprised you in development work, but it's here that you saw.
I think we're talking in terms of issues, right?
Yes.
I think an important one is, we were talking a moment ago about emotional intelligence. Now I
Yes.
move to artificial intelligence, which is much more than a technological trend. It's something that can profoundly change the economy and the society of all the countries. Now, that's something that, UNDP, we've been analyzing very, very closely, and we're following that very closely. And there is a risk of, a divergence within the countries about those people who actually benefit from AI and others that are left behind, and even between the countries, that, some of them would advance very rapidly and some other country would be left behind. So it's quite, I was quite favorably, surprised to see how much the Philippines has done in terms of articulating strategies and trying to prepare for AI that work with all the Filipinos. We launched a report not long ago. We had, many discussion about what AI means for the Philippine economy, for the Philippine society.
Yeah.
And there is clearly, a good basis. That needs to be continued because there are still many challenges. But I was very happy, very pleasantly surprised to see how much, effort and already preparation the Philippines has made to benefit from AI.
Initially, there were criticisms about using AI in school, at work, etc. But through the years, I would say that the Philippine government per se, is now promoting the use of artificial intelligence in so many forms. In fact, some of the courses available in the university already includes AI. And special thanks to also development partners who supported the initial discussions and research about AI. I just would like to add something very close to my heart about AI. During the COVID-19 pandemic, I was working with the USAID Health Project. And during that time, it was for tuberculosis and HIV. And then we used AI for X-ray, for TB screening, which was later used for COVID-19 screening, where instead of asking the patient to wait for 2 to 3 days to get their result, which will hamper their seek for medical help, we were able to use AI for TB screening, HIV screening, and COVID-19 screening in less than a minute.
That's impressive, yes. Yeah.
Yes, and we used that for social behavior change communication, sir. Because that was fast. They don't need to come back to the health center and they don't need to wait for the actual results because AI helped our medical doctors to really provide immediate care and immediate guidance to a patient whether or not that person needs fast medication or false alarm. Because AI can also say, false alarm, you are not sick because this screening result is negative. So when we use it responsibly, I think that's the future.
Definitely. Well, it's already the present, I think.
In your early months here, apart from all those travel to communities you mentioned, recently you mentioned that you were able to talk to some members of the community. Was there like a big challenge or problem, or maybe you don't need to go to the community because just looking at the news in your iPad or cell phone, there's so much negative and there's so many bad news, there's so many chaos, and there's so many financial, economic problem. But do you have some kind of optimism, or you want to share that, this should be the mantra? Like, where do you get that greatest sense of optimism, sir?
I mean, first you have to realize that the environment has become very volatile and uncertain in all respects. But you have also to be very careful that it does not stop you. And I think part of the answer to your question is, keep faith in the value that you stand for, the value of solidarity, the value of humanity, human development. And I think when you're an official from the United Nations, it's really something that stays with you. You stand for the value, and I think probably even more strongly when they are under attack. So this is one thing. I think the second is not to be, not let the bad news overshadow the good news. The good news never make the headlines, right? Yeah. But if we look at, what's happening in the Philippines, and you were mentioning some of, the circular economy. I mean, I've seen, many examples of very positive developments in the Philippines that UNDP has been part of, or that, we just read in the news, that are actually very encouraging. So we need actually to keep the focus sometime on the positive side. So keep the motivation, keep, the focus on the positive, be positive, positive thinking, and keep hope.
Especially saying that to the government agencies you work with along the way when we have agreements of support to the administration and to the local government units, and then suddenly, bad news. But then, you said the diplomat in you, as a representative of the UN here in the Philippines, you also share the so many good news that were not reported anyway. And with that, you take some positive outlook.
I believe so, but at the same time, it's important to learn from history and recent history. So we had a pandemic we have now have an energy crisis. So it's important to learn for those moments and be able to increase preparedness.
Yeah.
I think, resilience is a word that applies to community, but also for all nations. Being resilient, prepared to shock, is something that we have actually now seen. And the question is, how much are we learning and how much are we changing? And if you take the example of the pandemic, maybe we have learned some lesson. Maybe we have not drawn all the lessons we should. So that's also, it's a little bit of kind of prevention, if you like, that, as UNDP, we're also very much, interested in helping with.
Survive, thrive, be resilient. I think that's the message here. How about, sir, along the way, especially as you travel from one country to another and now you're facing our fellow man here, how important for you is listening? Not only listening to the big ones, but listening to the, community members, because whether or not the support they need are part of the agenda that you bring, how important is listening?
It's absolutely essential. I mean, the easy answer to your question would be, as I recently arrived to the Philippines, listening is my priority. And that's very true, but I don't think it stops being a priority. I think listening, when you come to another country and you're posted for 5 years, listening, constant listening mode is absolutely part of, what you should be doing. You won't succeed if you don't do that. And things change, and you have to hear very different voices as well. So, listening, absolutely part of, I would say, my vision, my philosophy, I would say.
Thank you, sir.
That's essential.
Thank you, sir. Of course, you wouldn't last that long if that's not part of your mantra. But I really appreciate that you mentioned that you yourself wants to be in the community and to listen. And then you said, even if it's not priority, maybe, along the way, you find how to put it in the agenda. And I think for Filipinos like us, especially these days, that's also very important. And now we know that United Nations, especially through the UNDP program here in the Philippines, is really working to meet the needs and at the same time support how you can in whatever way possible based on the agenda or the priority of your term. Having worked across this portfolio, as we mentioned, like especially here in the Philippines, do you have a new context for that? If we connect like what you said about the agenda for the Philippines, then you go to the communities, you listen, but how do you put it into context? Or do you have another context of development from the UNDP down to your actual work here in the country?
I mean, the context is shaped by the country, right? And I think what we're bringing as UNDP is two things. One is the understanding of this context by working a lot with national partners, as we just discussed, and the community, but also putting that context in perspective by also drawing from the experience we have in other countries.
Yes.
So, in the Philippines, yes, we're seeing what's happening in the Philippines. Sometimes we're sharing the Philippine experience with other countries. There is a lot to showcase. But sometimes, we also look at what has happened in other countries. And I think for me, that's, quite interesting, having been posted in some countries of the region like Indonesia, Vietnam, China, and the regional office is actually to try to understand the context of the Philippines that is very specific, but also try to draw connections which what I have seen in other countries, and then try to enrich our dialogue and cooperation through the regional or the global prism. And that's the value of being, a global organization like UNDP or the United Nations, is to bring also the word to the Philippines and then the Philippines to the world.
Yeah. And I'm sure also whatever learnings from the Philippines, UNDP is also sharing it in many forms for other countries also to learn from us.
Absolutely.
At least we have something to share as well.
No, that's an important part of the work of UNDP,
Yes,
this
sir.
cross-country
Thank
dimension.
You, sir. Thank you, sir. And then as you continue your first year, do you look forward to something big? What else do you look forward in terms of you learning or experiencing in the Philippines in the line of development work?
Well, the thing I very much look forward is getting to know more of the Philippines in all its diversity. 3 months, relatively short period. Most of it has been spent in the capital, which is normal because of, meetings and courtesy, all this. I had a few trips outside Manila. Last one was in the Pangasinan province where I met with the community. But I need to go out much more. I need to find time and go out to different parts of the country. I went also to Bangsamoro, Autonomous Region of Muslim Mindanao. I went to Davao, but I need so many places. And this, there is a professional dimension to it because we have projects there. We work them. So, and the context is very specific. So I'm very keen to do that. But it's also from the personal side, as a person who is interested in the society, the diversity, the culture, and the history, it's also a very good way to personally appreciate the country in all its richness and diversity. So that's, again, going back to the, what is exciting and motivating, that's part of the plan.
And take note, you will also get a taste of the different food per region.
I know.
So it's not going to be just like adobo or sinigang. How about working with partners? No, not only the communities and the government, like your experience working with partners, one of them, other development partners, and maybe the private sector. What are you excited about?
Well, that's the great thing about being an international organization, international agency like UNDP, that, we represent not only the member state, we represent the community. We represent every part of, everyone should feel a connection to the United Nations. And that, I think, also for us is a very good reason to work with everyone. So yes, we have, a cooperation with government. There is also very strong, very close, also very strong with development partners here. But you mentioned them: civil society, private sector, the academe, and community-based organization. Everyone should have a connection with the United Nations. And for us as UNDP, this constituency, I'm bringing partners together because it's not only working with partners in isolation. It's actually bringing partners together, bring the various stakeholders, and foster this kind of cooperation across sector, across constituency. That is also an intrinsic value of the United Nations, something we know very committed to do.
Close to my heart, sir, also is like the women. Are you excited to work with women's groups, other groups like indigenous peoples groups here? Because these are, some of the organizations that need support from development partners, whether it's capacity building, whether it's financial or technological. I'm sure some of the projects of UNDP are helping them, not only in the metro, but also in Mindanao.
No, absolutely. I mean, we talked just a moment ago about the youth. Happy that you mentioned, women, and I would say also gender empowerment and gender equality. Absolutely central to UNDP, but not only UNDP, UN Women, and I would say the whole United Nations. We stand for that. So it means, working with a woman. And indeed, you gave this example, in BARM, working with the women mediators, the women entrepreneurs, important. But in all projects, the gender dimension is very important. But it's not only about working with or for the women. It's also promoting gender equality, gender empowerment. And that means working with men and working with institutions. But the gender dimension is, essential. And I think, picking up your reference to indigenous people, yes, we do work with indigenous people. We just signed a new project with New Zealand to work on indigenous people, and that's part of a broader agenda, which is something that all the international community that subscribe to this called "Leave No One Behind." Make sure that whether it's people with disability, all the groups that are marginalized are actually not left behind. And so this "Leave No One Behind" is driving a lot of our work.
Yes,
and you know that, right?
Also, the Philippine government agenda is to leave no one behind. That's why I mentioned the women, indigenous peoples, far-flung communities, and of course, when you say that, our visual is like livelihood, economic opportunities, education, and I'm sure it's of the projects and also the agenda of and activities of your term. Thank you very much, sir. Thank you very much. When I mentioned the youth, you were happy about it. So maybe let's try some, like, you have something in your mind that you want to tell the Filipino youth. Maybe it's time to greet them, the new generation of youth. They're so empowered. They use their social media. And for the others who are not on that level, at least there are some groups who are also helping them. And our Department of Education is also reaching out to them. Almost the end of the school year for all. It's like elementary, high school, and college. But the Filipino youth, maybe you have a special message for them. You can look at the camera and say your piece.
Happy, to send maybe a short but strong message, I believe, with 2 words. First one is hope, pag-asa. Because, when you're young and you see the perspective and sometimes the darkness of it, losing hope can be a risk. So, keeping hope, having the pag-asa with you is important. And I think the second is action. The youth need to take action. And they will be supported. They will have space and a voice. But youth not be sitting and watching, but they should take action. And they have a lot of ideas, creativity. So hope and action, I think, is a key message to end this.
Thank you, Sir Christophe. So to all the youth out there, you heard that. I will repeat, hope and action is one of the best message for you guys. I hope you also uplift your voice, share your thoughts, and also support an organization in your area who are also encouraging more youth to get involved. So with that, maraming salamat po sa inyo.
Walang anuman po.
Sir Christophe, saludo kami sa iyo, hindi lang sa pagiging diplomat, hindi lang sa dami ng development work at mga bansang napuntahan mo, kundi parang sa pagmamahal mo sa Pilipinas kahit na bago ka pa lamang sa aming lugar. Maraming salamat, Sir Christophe, na marami ka na ring nalamang salitang Filipino o Tagalog at kaya mong panindigan ang konversasyon o ugnayan na Tagalog ang salita. Higit pa ang iyong matututunan sa iyong patuloy na pakikipagkilala at pagbisita sa aming mga kababayan. Sumula sa akin at 10 ng aking mga kasama dito sa AMBAG Network, kami ay proud and humbled to be with you. We are so happy that you shared your time with us for this episode. And not only that, because we are so touched that you also found that time, that long time and comprehensive learning how to speak our language really means a lot, Sir Christophe. Believe kami sa Tagalog mo, ilang buwan ka pa lang dito sa Pilipinas, ang galing-galing mo na. 9/10 ka na sa akin, sir. Konti na lang, perfect na. We are so honored to meet you, sir, and we wish you good health and good luck to your development work in the Philippines.
Maraming salamat po mula sa akin at UNDP. Maraming salamat po sa invitasyon.
We have a surprise. Hooray! So before we end this is Diwata Paredes for the Development Dialogues of AMBAG Network. And we just want to ask Sir Christophe, what is the letter D for you before I said hooray? D means?
I would say development, obviously.
So this is definitely Development Dialogues. All right, see you in the next episode. Thank you. Thank you, Sir Christophe. Maraming salamat po.